All right, so this is an unpack of a HauteSpot Networks HauteVIEW100 camera. So you can see each camera comes with a serial number up in the upper right corner. It's a small white box, easy to open, flips right open, and there's our camera. And as you can see, the camera has a number of features. You can see the IR illuminators on it. You can see the white light illuminators on it, the lens on the front, number of push buttons. So we have the event marker, this button here. We have the microphone for audio record. We have a still image capture button, and we have a record video button. There's a clip on the back for attaching it to a belt. There's a small screen on the back. It's a little dirty, but that's because I've touched it with my greasy hands. And then there's a couple of buttons down here, one for move left, one to move right, also for menu, and then OK. And between these three buttons and the power on button up here at the top, that's how you're able to turn the unit on and off and navigate through the menus. You can see that there's a light flash up on the top, and once we power it on, you'll see how that works. On the other side, we have USB for powering the unit and for transfer without a base. We have the HDMI cable. Oops. We have the HDMI cable inside, so you can attach directly to a monitor. This is also where the flash reset pin is, and you can see that there's a little pin position in there. If the unit needs to be reset and a soft reset through the menu doesn't work, you can reset it through the pin. And then there is a AV connector, and this is where you can connect audio and video in and out. You can get a headset and a microphone attached. I'm sorry, no video on that. At the bottom, you can see that we've got a pin connector. This is a touch pin connector with two retaining screws, and this is designed to go at the end of a spiral bungee cable that would attach to a walkie-talkie, your LMR radio walkie-talkie. And as you can see, there's a number of pads there, and if you look at the docking station right here, you'll see that there's a number of pins that push up, actually 4 of them, and that's where we get our USB and power. So those equate to the USB connector on the back of the dock right there. We can also put direct DC power into the dock if we want. The dock's a basic flat unit. It doesn't have any screws or anything on the bottom. And if you were to put it into a car of some type, then you would probably do that using a Velcro attachment or permanent glue. Okay, to just run the unit, it's very simple. You press and hold the button. You get an indicator tone, and the green light goes on. The back of the panel goes on, and at this point, the camera is actually ready for use. It comes on in a recording mode, and you can see that up in the upper right corner or left corner of the screen, we're getting a blinking indicator indicating that it's recording. All right. And here it's telling us the resolution that it's currently in, the frame rate, the amount of time that's been recorded, how much, what mode it's in for recording of still images, and then there's the unit number. The unit number will also include my officer ID and my camera number. It gives me the date, gives me the current time, it gives me how much remaining storage I have. Oop, and it just went off. I will just touch the button right there and it'll come right back. And you can see that it's recording. All I have to do to stop the record is to press the button. I get a quick beep and I get a vibration. Okay, and that's what happens when I'm turning it off. In the upper corner here, you can see that I've got a battery indicator that shows how full it is. And now we're going to go ahead and open up the menu. And to do the menu, I just simply, while the screen is on, hit and hold the menu button. Oops, hit and hold the menu button. It'll ask me for the password. I have not set a password, so I'm just going to hit OK, OK, OK. So I'm now in the camera. You can see that it gives me a simple to use menu. I can navigate up and down through the menu by pushing the buttons right here. So if I press the left button, I'll move up. If I press the right button, I move down. So we're going to walk through these. As you can see right now, I'm recording at 2 megapixels. That's 1920 by 1080 or 1080p with a 16:9 aspect ratio. I can move down through the screen, or I actually can select it by hitting the OK button right here. And I can walk through the various resolutions that the camera supports simply by hitting the M button here. So 1440, 1280, so 720p, 1280 by 720, so that would be your VGA. Kind of an odd one, 848 by 480, so D1. Again, you can see the aspect ratios are changing. 720 by 480, so that would be my standard def. And now I'm back to 1920 by 1080. So I can hit OK. It brings me back up out of that mode. So I can now go through and look at the next set of things. I can go through and so now I can set burst mode for still. So I'm going to go down a menu item. I can set the resolution for the camera. This is going through 21 megapixel, 5, 8, 10, 12, 16, and 21. I can say in burst mode how many frames I want to capture when I'm taking a still. In this case, I'm off. I can say I want it to take two slots, 3, 5, 10, or 15. So if I want to make sure that I get several still frames in fast order, I can put this burst mode in. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. I can do a self timer. In this case, if I want to take a picture of myself doing something, I can set the timer and I can tell it how long I want it to wait before it starts recording, between 5 and 10 seconds. I can do a capture delay, and this would be from the time that I press the button to how long I want it to start running. And again, I can set it for 5 or 10 seconds or off. The quality is the amount of compression that the camera uses. And here I can use super fine, fine, and normal. Super fine is fine, and the main reason for using the different resolutions would be simply so that you don't use as much storage. Pre-record means that before I hit the button, it'll actually start recording prior to my telling it to, and I can tell it to do pre-record on. Okay, and then what that does is it basically leaves the camera on, and when I press the record button, it actually backs up. It's actually recording continuously at that point, and it backs up and saves the last few seconds, 5 seconds prior to the record. I can go down again, and I can say delay record, and I can tell it how long to wait before it starts recording after I hit the button. Okay. And of course, these beeps are not necessary, but I have them on just for demonstration. I can split the time, and that would be actually where the files get split into segments. Right now, I have it set for 15 seconds, or 15-minute intervals, I'm sorry. But I can go in and select that, and I can break these down into shorter time slots. So I can say 30 minutes, an hour, or 45 minutes, or 5 minutes. Generally, it's a good idea to break it down by 10 or 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll say 10 minutes for this. Next thing is I can have slideshow on or off, and that's when I go to look at the camera. It'll play my images in a slideshow order. We're going to skip over that because that's not important. Infrared. So infrared will actually switch the camera into a nighttime mode using the infrared illumination, and that allows you to see in complete darkness with no illumination. You can see about 10-15 feet with the camera in the infrared mode, and we'll demonstrate that a little bit later. I can have different levels of recording warnings, and this will give me an audible announcement before I actually start using the camera when I press the record button. So I can either say give the record button warning or not. So I'm going to turn the record warning on so you can hear what it sounds like. Okay. If this camera were GPS enabled, which this particular model is not, I can turn GPS on and off. If I have GPS on, it will give me the location and it will set the time and date from satellite. I can change the language, and the camera actually operates in English as well as a couple of other Western languages. I can have it turn off the screen after a certain amount of time in order to save power. Here I have it set for 1 minute, but I can change the time. I can change the LCD brightness. So if I'm outdoors during the day, I can make the brightness high or low. I can have the unit auto power off at a certain time. I can turn the LED lights up on the top on or off. I can turn these tones when I'm moving the keys on and off. I can adjust the volume of the system. And then I have a couple of different marker types for the types of video or the type of activity that I'm involved in. And these would be for incident types. So if I'm acting as a police officer, that's a particular type. I can be a criminal investigation. I can have no type, or I can have traffic. So it kind of depends on what activity you're involved in. We are going to be modifying this to add different file types and different activities and make these user settable. Again, I can set the time. The time is automatically synchronized when the unit is docked. ID setting. This is where I can set my officer ID, and I can give my specific serial number of what it is, and I just move my numbers, Z, Z, Y, or in this case, maybe I want to make it, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. And obviously, this is a system where you definitely do not want to be having the officers set their pins into the cameras. Generally, it's advised that the cameras be given to officers as a piece of equipment that they keep with them rather than checking them out and changing users. And then, of course, when I'm done, okay, and I can back out, and now I'm setting that's the device serial number. And I didn't set the officer number. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we're done with that, and I can hit the red button at the top, and that'll get me out of that mode. So now I've set the user and password. I can reset the camera to default settings. And we are going to make this camera, we're adding the capability to have multiple users so that the officers will not be able to put the camera into default setting mode. The data and the settings will be hard locked. It gives me the time zone, and I have it set right now for time zone -8. That's universal time -8. And it tells me the firmware version. So at this point, I'm now done with all of my settings. You can see the camera's back into ready to record mode. And if I want to record, I simply, and I can have it go into power off mode. That's standby, so I just turned off the screen. I press the button quickly. You can see it's green to indicate that it's on. And if I want to record, I simply press
video recording on the scene.
And so it gives me an audible indicator, and you can see that I'm now recording.